Let's do it. Let's do it. Happy Wednesday. I am back with another live video from Star Carter Personal Finance. I hope you guys are having a wonderful evening wherever you are in this world. I'm in South Carolina. It is 6:05 here. So when you come inside the chat, please let me know where you're streaming this live video from this afternoon. I do appreciate Sean is already in the building. Thank you so much. And guys, I had to bring you this article that I read about this lady that's 70 years old that got fired from the Home Depot for a 5K fraudulent transaction. Now, it wasn't 5K at once, it was two different transactions from what I gathered, but it totaled almost up to 5,000, if not a little over 5,000. And she was fired for this fraudulent transaction. So, without me giving too much into it, I want to go ahead and start with the news clip that I have, and I also have an article from Yahoo Finance. And once this live in, I will link those information in the description if you want to check out those sources for yourself. But I really and truly had to bring this to you because this can happen to anybody, especially somebody that works as a cashier or anybody that's dealing with money on a daily basis, that deal with money in their career, whatever it is that they do for work. This could happen to anybody. So this is a very, very important video. And to me, it's like awareness, because there's so many scams, there's so many fraud, it's so much going on out here that everybody needs to know these different things that are going on. So I'm gonna go ahead and get into it. So this live will not be a long one tonight. So let's go ahead and let me pull up. Let me remove the banner. And let's go ahead and let's look at this video.
From the I-Team tonight, a 72-year-old former Bay Area Home Depot employee is suing the retailer for age discrimination and wrongful termination after she was fired for failing to stop fraudulent purchases of roughly $5,000.
Yeah, the incident happened at the San Ramon Home Depot 3 months after a loss prevention officer was shot and killed at a Pleasanton Home Depot while trying to stop a theft attempt.
ABC 7 News I-Team reporter Melanie Woodrow is here with the story, Melanie.
Dan and Amma, we hear about theft in the Bay Area all the time. This one's a little bit different. Carlene Acevedo was fired from Home Depot last July for creating a security or loss prevention risk. That was according to her termination letter. She says she felt scared and intimidated by the person at her register who was paying with a suspicious card.
You're phenomenal in every way. We are grateful to have you.
During her 7 years working as a cashier at the San Ramon Home Depot, Carlene Acevedo says she won multiple awards for exceptional service, including Cashier of the Year in 2021.
I loved working there.
But last July, Home Depot fired Acevedo after she rung up 4 fraudulent transactions, resulting in a more than $5,000 loss for Home Depot.
I was so upset. I just wanted to get out of there. I've never been fired before.
Acevedo says she was working alone in the garden center when a man approached her cash register with a card that had written instructions on the back to process the transaction as cash. She rung up a purchase for a little more than $1,300.
The card was suspicious. It was very suspicious. But I went ahead and ran it.
Approximately 30 minutes later, she says the customer returned.
And then I knew for sure that he was targeting me because I was alone.
Acevedo says she tried to call her supervisor, the head cashier, but no one answered.
He was demanding. He wanted the transaction done as fast as possible. He got upset when I made the phone call to my manager. I was scared.
According to her termination letter, Acevedo ran 3 additional separate transactions as cash, this time for more than $4,000. She says she kept duplicate copies of the receipts that she took to her manager.
4 days later, I got fired.
The incident happened 3 months after Pleasanton Home Depot loss prevention officer Blake Mose was shot and killed while trying to stop a theft attempt, a story Acevedo was familiar with.
It was devastating. I mean, it was sad.
Acevedo says as an employee, she received annual computer-based training by Home Depot on what to do in the event of a shoplifting or active shooter.
What were you instructed to do?
I was instructed not to do a thing. Do not approach. Do not touch. Do not try to dissuade, not to interfere, just let them go.
She was doing everything she could. She asked for backup. She's making copies of the receipt. You know, she can't risk her life for merchandise, and employees are explicitly taught not to risk their life for merchandise.
Acevedo's attorney, Chambord Benton Hayes, also questions the timing of her termination. According to the lawsuit, 6 months prior, Acevedo learned a teenage new hire at the store had a starting salary of $21 an hour. Acevedo, who was 70 at the time and had been working at Home Depot for 7 years, was making $20.17 an hour. She complained, and the following month received a $2 raise.
They really just wanted an excuse to terminate her. The moment she complains, she's terminated within a few months.
By email, a Home Depot spokesperson told the I-Team, "I can't discuss ongoing litigation."
I lost so much. I lost my health care. My health declined as a result of that. I had difficulty finding work, and paying my rent was put into question.
Acevedo says it took a while, but she was able to find new part-time work.
It was a devastating emotional experience.
Acevedo's attorney says that she'll try to obtain surveillance video from the store as part of discovery, as well as any employee handbook or instructions that might exist regarding what to do in a situation like this. Dan and Amma, if this individual had just walked out with the item, she might still have her job, but because he went to the register and she processed those transactions as cash, she was fired.
All right, y'all. So y'all see the devastating interview that we just saw with this sweet lady, that I feel so bad that she had to go through that, because as a person that worked in banking, you know, and I worked as a teller for a while in the credit union before I was, you know, promoted to any other position. So I understand, you know, working in the front line as a cashier, whether you are doing it at a Walmart or like she was at Home Depot, or even as a bank teller, it's one of those thankless jobs, but it's one of those jobs that is absolutely necessary. And you never know what's going to come through your line, and what somebody could have a stolen credit card, because somebody could, you know, have one of those skimmer devices that they're putting on the machines, or when somebody's not looking, to try to steal people's information. You just never know, because these scams are so bad now. You know, they're so bad. And not only the scams, but did you hear that another Home Depot employee got killed, got, you know, unalive? I am on YouTube, because they was trying to prevent theft. Okay. So you mean to tell me that this lady may still have her job if the person had actually stole, you know, some merchandise and walked out, versus they gave her a card that had instructions on the back telling her to run the transaction as cash, right? And that's what she did, because you don't know what the next person is able to do. So as a person that used to work on a teller line in a bank, if somebody slides me a note and the note has instructions on it that is telling me to not press my alarm, do not, you know, alert anybody, give me all your money, in training, in robbery training, that you do what they tell you to do, and you try to get them out of the facility. You're not finna try to be no hero. Okay. And I work with thousands of dollars. Now, you're talking about a lady here that's a cashier at a Home Depot, and she gets a card with a note on the back of the card giving her instructions to run the transaction as cash. Okay. And then she does it, and then they double back in and do it again. And she's doing everything that she's supposed to do. She tried to contact her supervisor. She tried to contact several people that she couldn't get a hold of. She made a copy of the receipt. She did everything that she could do to try to bring attention to this person that she, you know, when they came back, she knew it was fraud. But what are you supposed to do? Are you supposed to put your life on the line knowing that at another Home Depot, somebody was unalive for trying to prevent theft? You know, this is really sad. This is really sad. Now, they say this happened last year, but she's suing right now. So, you know, I don't I'm like totally flabbergasted, because shame on Home Depot for even doing that. 70 years old. I think she's 72 now. 70 years old at the time, and or 71. I think she was 71. And she had to go through that at that stage of life. Okay. Now the funny part is, which is not funny, but I'm just saying it, like, they hired somebody way younger than her. She said a teenager that started off making more money than she was, and she called it to their attention. Like, I've been here 7 years. Y'all done gave me, accolades for being a good employee, with, best cashier awards and all that type of thing. And you're going to bring in some teenager and they already making more money than me. Then they give her a $2 raise. And then after that, she's fired. Like, that don't make sense, because you can't train me on how to handle things. And then when I try to do my job, I'm not able to, because where was the supervisor? Where was the other people that she tried to contact that she was not able to get a hold of? You done been in Home Depot and the Lowe's, and they have the walkie-talkies, and, people are everywhere. She was in the garden center. So people are everywhere. And I'm pretty sure, that she was having a hard time. And then look at her age. She's looked like a very small lady. I would have did whatever it was that they had on the back of that card, and I would have tried to get them out of there as quickly as I can. And she made receipts. She did everything. She made a paper trail so that she could tell them once she was able to get somebody, once she got that person out of her area and out of the building, because you don't never know what people do, especially when you just had another coworker from another location that got unalived just trying to do their job. And it's not worth losing your life. You mean to tell me that my life is only worth a little over $5,000 if this person was that desperate and might have would have tried to harm this lady, 70 years old. And I think what's even more sad is when I'm sitting here listening to her, and it should not be any age discrimination when it comes to employment, but because of her age, she probably was having a hard time getting employment. And then she said that she pays rent. So she's not a homeowner. So this could have caused her to be put out in the street. I mean, I don't, as far as the the interview says it didn't go into detail about her, what kind of family she have, but just imagine, being that advanced age of retirement, and still working, still paying rent, and then you get fired for protecting yourself. But in the midst of that, you were trying to do your job. So before I go into let me come back on the screen real quick and just see what's going on in the chat real quick. It's like this, this really, like, when I saw this, it really hurt my heart, because like I said, I've worked on the front line before in banks, and it's some of the scariest things. I'm telling you, it's some of the scariest thing, because when people come inside of a bank and they just looking around and looking real suspicious, it puts you on edge. And when people do, crazy stuff, like, I used to always get people, especially around the 1st or the 3rd of the month, when people get their checks, and they would pass you a note, but the note would be, could you make me out a money order for this amount, or could you get me a cashier's check for this amount? So they're giving you instructions on stuff they need to get done. But when, as a cashier or as a teller, and somebody pass you a note, the first thing, you're kind of nervous, especially if you don't know the person that's coming in the branch or where you at. It's nervous. It's really nerve-wracking, because you don't know, this could be a possible robbery, and like I said, people that are cashiers and people that work in teller positions and stuff like that, or either gas station cashiers, or anytime you having to handle money and handle customers, where you having to take checks, credit cards, any type of different payment forms, you just don't never know, and because scamming and fraud and people are so desperate now for money. They're doing all sorts of things. It's just really, really scary now. I would never go back into that capacity of banking ever again where I have to be on the front line. If I were to go back to work in the bank, I would have to be back office or admin or something like that, or somewhere in the fraud or something. I would not want to be on the front line because it is too scary these days, because they're doing too much check fraud, all this type of stuff, and you can lose your job. I worked with a lady that almost lost her job because she took a fake check and cashed it. These checks are starting to look so real now. I mean, you got to almost have a magnifying glass and looking at the checks now to make sure that they are legit, because they are so, sophisticated now with printing these bogus checks and using real account numbers, real routing numbers. Now they're not making up numbers, you know, and so it's just, it just really broke my heart when I was even looking at this article. So let me see what's going on in the chat before I go to that article from Yahoo Finance. Hey, Sarah, thank you so much for tuning in. Is that Shannon? Thank you so much. And Geneva gave me a heart. I appreciate you joining me again this afternoon. We got Anita. Thank you so much for joining us. And yeah, wow, it is messed up. It's very messed up. Okay, we got Kathy again. Thank you so much for joining. Wow, she did the right thing. I'm glad she's suing Home Depot. I'm glad she is too. I'm glad she is too. And like I said, I mean, I tell you, I'm so tongue tied because this really hurt my heart, because I can imagine that could have been my grandmother, trying to make ends meet, still trying to work at 70 years old, whether she wants to, because everybody that's retirement age just don't want to retire. Some people get jobs like that just to keep themselves going or whatever. They don't necessarily need the money. But I'm not saying, I don't know what this lady's circumstance is, other than she said she was trying to find another job and she had to pay her rent. So that makes me feel like she might not be that stable, just from that little information that she provided. But I just couldn't imagine, thinking that you're doing the right thing to find out you're doing the wrong thing. I just couldn't imagine. So let's look at this article real quick. All right, let's see. And she says that I lost so much. California Home Depot fired 70-year-old woman who processed $5K in fraudulent transactions. Now she's suing. So this came out as of yesterday on August the 20th. So this is how frequent this article is. It say a 72-year-old California woman has sued Home Depot for age discrimination and wrongful termination after the retail giant fired her for failing to stop 5,000 in fraudulent transactions. Now her lawyer that we saw, Miss Acevedo, loved working as a cashier at the San Raymond Home Depot. In her 60s, she won multiple awards for her service, including Cashier of the Year in 2021, and was understandably upset and disoriented when she was first fired last July after a scary incident with a shopper. Now that's a backlink. So her lawyer said, got a funny feeling when she was approached at her till by a customer with a very suspicious card who demanded multiple transactions to be processed as cash. This happened just 3 months after a loss prevention officer was shot and unalive at a nearby Pleasantown Home Depot while trying to stop a theft attempt. Now, can you imagine, her being right there with this very suspicious card and got this note on the back of the card telling her to process it as cash, knowing that somebody else was just had their life taken away at another Home Depot, and now this is at your door. Alone and disturbed by the boyish customer, the then 71-year-old processed the fraudulent transaction. 4 days later, I got fired, she told the ABC 7 News I-Team, describing her former employer's response to the incident as totally devastating. I lost so much. She said, I lost my health care. My health declined as a result of that. I had difficulty finding work and paying my rent was put into question. So she no longer have any health care. So no longer having health insurance. Ultimately, she decided to sue Home Depot for the ill treatment she believes she was subjected to. Here's what happened. A suspicious customer, her lawyer, was working alone in the garden center when a man approached her cash register with a suspicious card that had instructions on the back to process his transaction as cash. Weary of the confrontation, she rung up the first purchase for a little more than $1,300. 30 minutes later, the man targeted her again, this time demanding 3 additional cash transactions totaling around $4,000 that he wanted done as fast as possible. So Home Depot needs to look at that as a robbery. She was being robbed. This person got instructions on the back of a card and is presenting it to her. She is being robbed and he's telling her to hurry up. Just like if a bank robber goes inside of a bank and they pass a note and they're telling you to don't alert, hurry up. She was being robbed. She was being robbed. And look right here, when I scroll down past that, fast as possible, he got upset when she tried to call her supervisor and scared of what he may do, ultimately did what the customer asked. She was scared. I would be scared too. You got to understand, a co-worker at another location just lost their life for trying to prevent theft. She did, however, discreetly make copies of the receipts, which she took to her manager after he left, as she should have. She did what she thought was right based on the annual employee training she received and what to do in the event of shoplifting or an active shooter. You having to take active shooter training now. That's how bad it has gotten. And if anybody's going to get hurt when things like that happens, it's going to be the frontline workers, your cashiers, your tellers, the people that are right there at the front. Whenever you walk into a store, a bank, it's the frontline people that you're going to see that has to worry about who's coming in those doors and watching almost every move that they're made, because you never know who's coming in there to do their business and get on about their way, or somebody coming in there and is about to do a terrible move. You do not know. And all I can say is shame on Home Depot, because this $5,000, is a little over $5,000, was not worth her life. And it really and truly was not that big of a deal in the grand scheme of what that big, like they say, giant retailer makes. That's a drop in the bucket to them, And so we go on, and she said, I was instructed not to do a thing. She said, do not approach, do not touch, do not try to dissuade or interfere. Just let them go. So she did what she was taught to do in her training. But she was swiftly punished for letting the customer walk away with $5,000 in fraudulent transaction. Within 4 days of the incident, she was fired for creating a security or loss prevention risk per her termination letter. The attorney representing her lawsuit, Chambord Benton Hayes, said the senior did everything she could in the difficult but potentially dangerous scenario. In an interview with ABC 7 News, Benton Hayes explained she asked for backup. She's making copies of receipts. She can't risk her life. Employees are explicitly taught not to risk their life for merchandise. Exactly. And if you're a teller, they'll tell you not to risk your life for money. Just give them what they got. Give them whatever it is and get them out of there. You're not trying to cause the hostage situation. You're not trying to cause anything like that other people could be harmed. So you need to get them on out of there and let the authorities do their job. I'm not trying to be a hero. I'm trying to get these people away so that they don't cause a scene that could hurt other people or especially hurt myself. So no, I'm not. I'm going to give this person whatever it is and I'm going to get them out of here. And that's what you're trained to do. Get them out of here. So she is claiming she was wrongfully terminated by Home Depot, is now working with Benton Hayes to prove her case. Employment attorneys are often brought in to consult around wrongful termination claims, which are typically complex and revolve around case specifics, employment contracts, employee handbooks, and state and federal laws. Was there more to the firing? The 72-year-old is not just suing for wrongful termination. She is also accused of retailer of age discrimination. According to her lawsuit, she learned 6 months before the incident that the San Raymond store had hired a teenager as a cashier with a starting salary of $21 an hour, aged at 70 at the time, and with 7 years of experience under her belt, she was only making $20.17. She complained and received a $2 raise the following month. So that's very suspicious that you can give this younger person or have them starting out making more with zero experience, and then just so coincidentally, as soon as this incident where she's clearly not wrong in the way that she handled it, you fired her. Benton Hayes thinks that the moment she complained about the wage disparity, she became a target, and they really just wanted an excuse to terminate her. And I believe that wholeheartedly because, it's frowned upon anyway to discuss your how much you make, especially if you're an hourly employee. They frown upon you talking about how much you make amongst each other. And that's why. Because a lot of times new hires come in, you could be there forever, and new hires come in and they're making more than you. And that's the reason why they don't want you to talk about that. They don't want they don't want that information out there, because then, yes, you're going to have to explain to me why a person that has usually zero to, no experience or not more experience than me, because I've been on the job 7 years, you got to explain to me why they coming in making more money than me. And I've been here forever. And I got a proven track record, right? Because you just gave me cashier of the year in 2021. So, all right, why am I not making more money than a person that just came, a high schooler? Might be something that they doing just for the summer. Okay. When the ABC News I-Team sought comment from the Home Depot on these allegations, a spokesperson said the retailer could not discuss ongoing litigation. Sadly, allegations of age discrimination in the workplace are not common. According to a recent AARP study, roughly 2/3 of adults over 50 believe older workers face discrimination in the workplace, and of that group, 90% believe ageism is commonplace. And I believe that. Because the older you get, and I can imagine this lady is 72 years old now, and she's trying to find work, and they looking at, is she going to be a liability? I mean, how's her health? Is she, because the older you get, you could be easy to fall and hurt yourself, break a bone, your bones get fragile as you get older and stuff like that. So can you imagine having to put yourself back out there in the job market that late in the game, in the time that you should be retired, or if you are working, it's something that does not require you to, do long walks. And I can assume, working in the garden center, you got all these different areas that you got to walk in, going in, they got the big bags of fertilizer, which I'm pretty sure they weren't having her lifting all this heavy stuff, but you just know what I'm saying. It probably wasn't just a pie job that she was doing, as the cashier. Because even as a cashier, you still have to help customers. You're still a part of customer service. If somebody asks you a question and they need you to, to show them something, you still got to, walk away a lot of times to help a customer. So they're saying age could have played into her challenging job hunt following her termination. After an anxious period of unemployment, when she wasn't sure if she could even pay for the roof over her head, she eventually found new part-time work to help her survive her senior years. So I just think this is like a really, really, just a really sad case. And I just really hate that it's like elderly abuse to me. I'm just, I guess that's why I can't get it out, because it really just hurts my heart, because it's some real cold-hearted people out here that are really out for themselves, that don't care about people, there's no way that Home Depot is justified in their actions. And I really and truly, they didn't put a dollar amount. I was hoping in that article that it actually said how much she was suing for, because I didn't read the article prior to me just pulling it up. So I didn't have any prior knowledge of what the article was going to say. So really and truly, it kind of regurgitated what what I had played from the YouTube news clip. But I was hoping that it was going to say exactly how much she sued him for. But since it doesn't, I really and truly hope that she sued them for millions. And I'm praying to God that she gets whatever it is she sued them for, plus some, because that's not how you treat anybody, especially somebody that has worked for you for 7 years, to the point that you've even given her awards and all kind of stuff for her service. And this is how you treat her, because she wanted more money, which she deserved. So that's why I put in the tire. These jobs aren't loyal. They're not loyal. They will replace you as quickly as they can. Like, they probably already had her job posted up on a job form before she could even leave out the parking lot sometimes. That's just how diabolical these people are. And if anything that we learn, I feel like the C-19, the pandemic back in 2020, it showed us really and truly that a lot of times we have a false sense of security in these jobs. We really do. And that any of our jobs can be taken away at any time. If something like that was to happen again, which they say that those numbers have started to spike back up, they could shut this country down again and we could be in the same boat. So I tell people all the time that you got to get other streams of income. You can't rely, like once upon a time you used to might have could rely on having one job and keeping that one job for 20 and 30 and 40 years and retiring with pensions and all that kind of stuff. That might have been a thing, but it's not like that anymore. These people don't have any loyalty to their employees. You just a number. And if you're no longer if your services are no longer needed, they don't have no problem with getting rid of you. And then hopefully that in your time and your employment that you were doing the right things with your money, saving for emergencies, savings on 3 to 6 months worth of money back for expenses if something like this were to occur, sudden job loss or anything like that. That's some of the things that I talk about all the time, is making sure that we're ready whenever life is going to life, because that's something that's not a if, it's a when it's going to happen. And a lot of times we're not ready for when those times happen. And you can't, guess it. I was just looking at a video the other day where I forgot exactly where about it was, but there was a matter of fact, I might can pull it up, where these people went to work at a Subway and they found out that the Subway had closed, and they didn't have any prior knowledge that the Subway was closing. So they went there to get a job. I mean, to go to work, just to find out that it was closing, and can you imagine, going to work? And not only that, that's not not just them closing, but they didn't even pay them. They didn't even pay them. I'm gonna see if I can find that one before I get off, because I was like, are you for real? Like, they like legit closed the location and didn't pay them. Okay, I found it. Hold on. Let me pull this up. This is from Subway. Hold on, let me. This is from Subway.
Working until suddenly they weren't. More than 200 employees across 23 different Subway restaurant locations in our region are now without jobs.
This after they learned their locations were being shut down unexpectedly. Fox 12's Carly Olson spoke with some of those employees today and tried to find some answers. Carly?
Pete and Nora, I'm here outside of the Subway location in Gladstone, which is off of Southeast McLaughlin Boulevard. And as you can see, the door here is locked. We got the chance to speak to some former employees from this location today who tell us they received no notice, no reasons, and no final paycheck.
No warning, no heads up, no transparency, completely and totally blindsided every one of us.
It's the same sign on the door of each location announcing just a temporary closure. And it's about all that manager Joanne Kennedy knows about the situation.
So a few weeks ago, things just kind of went downhill at a very, very fast rate. Everything was good one day and then our order didn't come, so we didn't have food.
She says they were told the food order was being resolved and to keep working, which they did until the food ran out.
And then our food orders started getting declined.
Another manager, Crystal, says everything finally came to a head last week.
Monday rolled around. It was like, you guys are not getting paid. We don't have any money to pay you.
Nearly 24 other Subway locations from Vancouver to Bend experienced mysterious closures, all of them franchised by Captain Enterprises and Subfecta LLC. Both Joanne and Crystal have reached out to the owners for answers, but all they've been told is to file through the Bureau of Labor and Industries for their final paychecks, which can take up to 100 days to process.
I've got a car payment coming up. I've got insurance. I got cell phone bills. Like, I live paycheck to paycheck, supporting my kids. I don't know where I'm going to get grocery money now.
Now I'm struggling to, where am I going to get the money? Where am I going to find the finances to pay these bills, to pay, for groceries?
Joanne has found another job in the meantime, and Crystal is hoping for unemployment benefits until she can decide next steps. But they're still recovering from the shock of having their longtime careers ripped away and not having any idea why it happened.
I've cried for over a week and a half. You put so much trust in somebody who says they're going to take care of you and it's going to be okay and you're going to be fine. And it's the trust that's broken.
That's why let us all work for over 2 weeks, knowing that we weren't going to get paid. I feel taken advantage of.
I reached out to the Subway Corporation for comments, and a spokesperson tells me our priority is to ensure guests can continue enjoying freshly made, high-quality, delicious food by identifying experienced operators within our system who can quickly take ownership and reopen the restaurants. And I did have the chance to speak on the phone with the franchise owner, Ann Bell. She gave me some of her comments. She says this all began when someone hacked her bank account and she was no longer able to pay their food supplier. She says she tried to go down different avenues to recover the funds, but as Subway is changing ownership, she did not have a lot of support from them to continue, and she was forced to make the difficult decision to close. She says she wants to make sure everyone is paid back and made sure Bully will fast track her employees' wage claims and that Subway will find new owners for the former franchises and they will be back up and running at some point. She also tells me she completely understands her employees' frustrations and she would not wish this fate on anyone. Reporting live in Gladstone, Carly Olson, Fox 12 Oregon.
All right, so y'all just seen that news clip that I was just telling you about with Subway, in that particular location. And, can you imagine showing up for work with a sign on the door and then you haven't got paid and then they're going to tell you that you need to take it up with some other entity to get your money that could take up to 100 days to get it? That's not how you do business. That's not how you do business. Okay, if you had some fraudulent transactions to come through your account, that's what you communicate with your workers and you try to figure it out. You just don't put a note on the door and say, I'm closed and you need to take it up with this other bureau to get your money in 100 days. That's not how you handle it. Because as the people were saying that was in there, car payments, but look, here's the thing. It don't matter what you got to pay. It's your money. You work for it. So they need to pay you, right? It doesn't matter what you're going to do with it. That don't matter. That part does not matter. You work 2 weeks, you get paid every 2 weeks, you expect to get your check. Period. And that's not how you handle things. But as I just saw a commenter when I was reading the comments as we was listening, that these people will and I'm gonna pull up all the comments on the screen about these people will use you up. These companies will use you up, and then when they no longer need your service, they do not mind showing you the door or closing down. I mean, how you hear about manufacturer jobs that close down? 1 minute, one day you're working, the next day the plant's closed. No notice. No idea it was going to happen. All right, so let me go to the chat and see who all we got in here now. So I'm gonna go back up. Heather in the house, thank you so much for joining in again tonight. I appreciate you. Anita says they don't want other employees who've been there longer, and I've done well to do the same thing she's doing. I agree that we're just coming up with a reason to get rid of her. Yeah, that poor little lady that was in that first clip that we looked at. I mean, I just feel sorry for her. I do. I mean, she really broke my heart when I was just looking at it. That's why I even decided to do the video, because it can happen to anybody. It can happen to anybody in any of these jobs, and especially people that have to handle money. If you have to handle money, the Subway lady that said that her account got hacked, the hackers, the scammers, the fraud is so bad right now, so bad. And a lot of these banks aren't eating these fraud anymore. They're not. I did a video, I think it was sometime last year, where I was saying banks are not eating all this fraud. It used to be where you were guaranteed to get your money back, but it is so bad now that banks are not eating all this fraud. And a lot of the customers are having to eat the fraud. I tell anybody, if you got a checking account, don't keep no more in your checking account than you absolutely need to pay your bills with. And if you have a checking account that requires a minimum, then keep whatever that minimum is, but no more, because you don't want to have a lump sum of money just sitting in your checking account that's attached to a debit card, or that's attached to a way that they can draft it out by a wire or anything like that, because wire fraud is really bad as well right now. All right, so Heather said, in College Francis Marion, I was working customer service desk at Walmart Magnolia Mall location. A man walked in with his gun and said he didn't know what caliber he needed. Management let him go to the gun section with no escort. He could have been in there to set it off. So nobody escorted him back there. That could have been a thing. Oh my God, it could have been loaded. That is crazy. That is crazy and scary all at the same time. Hello, Miro. Thank you so much for tuning in. That's crazy and scary all at the same time. Heather said, I went home literally clocking out while he was in the back. Just thank God it wasn't anything major. Thank God he was actually going in there getting ammunition or whatever it is that he needed and nothing else. That's crazy. And it said there may be other older employees there who are doing well. They don't want others to follow suit. Ageism may be widespread, so try to figure out a reason to get rid of her. Yeah. I just couldn't imagine. FMC told us my freshman year, 1985, we would not retire from anywhere, and we have at least seven jobs before retiring. Get ready. I believe it. Muriel said, no warning at all. Let's see. Benny says, this is why we need to create our own business. Companies use us up and then replace us. That's the one I was reading when we was looking at the Subway thing. And yeah, you're absolutely right. That's when I started my business. I started my business as I was working at the bank in 2020. I started my business and I grew my business over the 2 years. And so in 2022, September 2022, that was my last day working at the bank. And I've been working on my own, creating multiple streams of income, doing different things. YouTube is one of my streams of income. I have an e-commerce store. I also have a brick and mortar store. And I do so many different things to make income, because I'm not waiting on somebody to fire me, or I'm not waiting on somebody to replace my position, or close the doors or whatever, you know. It's just not fair how people do, or I can say people, businesses do others, especially when they are terminating you, terminating your position, closing down, you know, whatever it is that they come up with, they don't handle it in the right way. They don't handle it in a humanitarian way, or they don't handle it as the golden rules say, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. You know, it's like they don't have a soul at that point. They don't understand. And I believe in what go around, come around. And they're gonna have to, those people, you know, whether it's the company owners, because a lot of times, you know, sometimes you don't meet franchisees like that Subway. They might have never met the actual person that owns the franchise or whatever. They may not know that person personally, but sometimes it depends on how small the area is. You know, I've met franchisees before, you know, just working in bank, you know, the owners of the franchise. I met them before. And so some of they, you know, employees at the locations like the McDonald's and stuff like that, they might never met the people. But these people need to understand that they have real people that's working for them, instead of looking at them as a dollar sign, but looking at them as a real person. And I think that they get so caught up with the money and their bottom line. And I'm a business owner, so I understand you got to always looking at the numbers and making sure that you're profitable and that you're not at the brink of bankruptcy. I understand that, but there's no way that I would treat my employees like trash, because you should know how it feels to be on the other side of that table, because at some point you had to work for somebody. 9 times out of 10, you didn't get a golden spoon in your mouth and you had to become a business owner. So you know how it feels to be on the other side, and you know how you want to be treated. And we have to have that same respect when we get on the other side of the spectrum. If we do become the business owners, if we do become the employers, that we have that same level of integrity and respect, and show that to the people that are now working for us, because at one point we were working for somebody. Okay. And that's just how I look at it. All right. Subway is an offer franchise and allowing locations so close to each other. Well, I wonder if she even, well, I think in that news clip that it said that it was owned by whatever that LLC, I forgot the name of that LLC. So maybe they own it, but that is weird to have them so close together though. It's tough when you really love your job. Yeah. And that lady that was in the original, you know, the Home Depot, I could tell that she loved her job. You could tell that she loved her job and she was genuinely hurt. Because you'll go into these jobs now and they tell you, oh, we a team, we're a family, and they do all this and they do all that for you, and they try to make you feel like, oh, you know, all this togetherness until then, you know, everything is cool until it's no longer cool. You know, and it's like a real terrible breakup at that point. Like a very bad breakup. Mira said, amen. You know, it's like I said, it's got me kind of, you know, like I said, it's got me tongue tied, because I just hate to see people being done wrong. I do. I'm a very compassionate person, very empathic person. You know, I really feel people's hurt very deeply, you know. And so when I read stuff like this, I bring it to the channel just for awareness, because like I said, with so many scams, with so many people that are desperate for money, fraud and all those things. So if you're a cashier, if you work on the front line, if you do anything where you having to be in a customer service capacity where you have to take money in, just be very, very careful. And don't put your life on the line for people that will replace you in a blink of an eye. That when that lady got fired, her job was probably posted up the very next day, if not the same day. Just depends on how early in the day did she get fired. Okay. Because they'll let you work a whole shift and fire you at the end of the shift, knowing they were gonna fire you at 8 o'clock that morning. You know, that's how dirty they can be. So I just tell people, just be careful out here, because they're even putting the devices that, like I was saying, the little skimmers and shimmers to that can read your card, read your numbers on your card, to take your card information. And you got a lot of terminals now that can do the tap, but there's still a lot that you got to insert your card into. Or some terminals are even older than that, where they're supposed to all be gone, where you swipe the card for the magnet strip. But so all terminals should at least be insert, but a lot of them need to go to tap, because they are putting those devices inside of those terminals. When the cashier got their back turned, the cashier might be stocking cigarettes or cigars or something behind them. If they're in a convenience store, and all they need is a few seconds to put that skimmer thing inside of there, and then now they're collecting all the customers' card information and stealing their information from their debit card or their credit card. It happens all the time. Gas pumps that are unattended, because the cashiers are inside of the gas station, so the pumps are unattended. They can put those devices inside of those gas pumps. We used to talk about all the time, when you go to a gas pump, wiggle it. Especially if you're paying at the pump, wiggle it and jiggle it and make sure that there's nothing in there that somebody might have slid in there that you can actually pull out. So you got to just be careful. But as a cashier, you can't see everything. And if a man walked in or a woman walked in and had a note on the back of a card and told me running this cash and telling me to be quiet and not alarm anybody, I'm going to look at it as a robbery. That's how I would look at it. And I'm going to try to get this person away from me and away from other people, because they could be armed and dangerous. And it's not worth my life. And it's and I would think that Home Depot would have had that same compassion for that lady, especially in her 70s, but I guess not. So I appreciate you guys for tuning in this afternoon. I do appreciate all the regulars that came in and showed me so much love. I do appreciate it. And I'm going to see you guys in another one. It's always something going on now, so that's why I've been coming on and bringing these lives to you guys, so you know exactly what's going on. If y'all have not looked at my video where I talk about the massive data breach and about the information being stolen, like billions of records of information being stolen, y'all make sure that y'all go back and check out that video. Make sure you guys are freezing your credit, because as I was saying, with all these scams and fraud and all this type of stuff going on right now, we cannot afford to have our personal information just sitting out there unprotected. So you got to make sure you're doing everything you can to protect yourself, protect your family, and protect your money, okay? Your livelihood. All right. So thank you again. And I'm going to see you guys in the next one. Y'all have a blessed evening.